Waterford will play Cork in the league final. It will be this Saturday coming, April 2nd, 7:15, Thurles, and should be a great occasion. Waterford decimated Wexford at the weekend, and then Cork came through. Really good game against Kilkenny, 127 to 220 in Porky Queeve on Saturday evening, a 4-point win. Very happy to say Eddie Brennan joins us on the line, All-Ireland winner himself, of course, with Kilkenny. Eddie, great to have you on.
Joe.
So just a question on the league generally, by the way, because this has cropped up a few times. There has been criticism of the format, that it's moved away from the merit-based Division 1A, Division 1B, serious relegation, dogfights to stay in 1A. And then now it's moved to a far more comfortable, non-merit-based, we're all happy, play the games, whatever happens, happens kind of a format. And people have raised eyebrows at that. The argument hurling managers and some players have said is it was just too intense to juggle the two. Where are you on the format question?
It's hard to know. I think we might have touched on this earlier on the year, and I think we said it would you'd have to maybe experience it. Obviously, it's quite close to championship, particularly for the two teams now on Saturday night, both Cork and Waterford. You're very, very close to championship, and when you look at guys picking up knocks, like you take Conor Mack for Wexford there yesterday. I mean, that's a huge concern now because you're so close to championship, and I think it depends on the nature of it. So I think you probably map out your strategy at the start and decide how much you're going to go at it and to what effect. But I think it's hard to know at the moment. I think you'd have to reserve judgment, but I definitely could understand teams maybe just getting game time into lads and holding off a little bit, and then Kilkenny, I suppose they will always traditionally go for it and want to win it. But I don't know. It's hard to know because it's probably been a bit, you could say, casual maybe at times. We've had some really good matches, but it's hard to know what to really, really read into it because, like I said, the big one is coming down the tracks. And if you're out after maybe losing your first two matches or something like that, you tend to probably try out your squad maybe a little bit more.
Yeah, and teams are entitled to do that. I suppose I'm coming at it maybe wrongly, but from the, say, fans' perspective, for instance, you're paying in, you want to see a product of a certain standard, and you turn up and you realise, oh God, it's like, I don't recognise half the team, and sure, to what extent are they really going at it?
Yeah, well, I went into Nolan Park myself yesterday expecting, a cracker of a game. I fully expected something similar to Saturday night because you kind of say, well, look, they're in a league semi-final now, you may as well go for it. I was disappointed by the crowd that was at the match. I really thought there'd be a huge crowd at it, but Wexford, for whatever reason, just didn't turn up. They just weren't at the pitch at all, and I think they never really threw down a meaningful challenge to Waterford yesterday. I think Waterford, it just reminded me of kind of, I suppose, a bit of a challenge match because there was no real physicality in it. The match was played on Waterford terms, and in fairness to Waterford, they bet what was in front of them. So in that regard, I could understand maybe punters and people coming in there a little bit disappointed. I was disappointed yesterday with the fare, whereas you compare it to Saturday night, you got an absolute belter of a game.
Well, let's start with Saturday night then, get into the game. So Cork 127, Kilkenny 220, a 4-point win for Cork in the end. Were both of these pretty much at full strength? I know Kilkenny were without TJ Reid. I didn't get to see the game in full. I had a glance at the teams. Were they pretty much how you might expect them to be, give or take, come championship time?
Yeah, they're not going to be far off that. I think from a Kilkenny perspective, you're seeing Mikey Butler has really bedded in nicely there, cornerback. I think Blanchfield is going really well. He got a bit of a different type of a challenge. I mean, he has played really, really well up to now. And in some ways, from a Kilkenny perspective, I'd be happy with the fact that he came up against a good challenge Saturday and got tested a little bit, and it wasn't all his own way. That's good for a young lad. It's a real test of their resolve. And Cian Kenny as well. It's no harm to have them taken off like that. But I think overall, what disappointed Kilkenny maybe was that they went away from what was working really, really well. And look, you have to give Cork a level of credit with that. Tim O'Mahony coming in at half-time definitely changed the game a little bit. And they kind of really went at Kilkenny. But I think some of the little aspects of the game that will disappoint Kilkenny was, they coughed up, I think, was it 6, 7, 8 points in a row to Cork.
Yeah.
And again, they just couldn't seem to get a foothold in the match coming down the straight. And you'd say, look, in terms of winning the match, Cork came at it at the real right time.
16,000 to Porky as well, which adds to the occasion. So really, Kilkenny made a brilliant start, scored 1-4 in 6 minutes, and ultimately the game swung towards the end on Dara Fitzgibbon. He scored a goal 5 minutes from time, and that really swung the game in Cork's favour. So they are going for a first league title since 1998, their first final in 7 years. What Cody said afterwards was, Brian Cody, I thought we played very well for long periods, didn't finish the game as we would have liked. So what would you say about the two performances, Cork and Kilkenny then? I know you've started on Kilkenny, but generally, are you reasonably happy with what you're seeing ahead of Championship? What are the concerns?
Yeah, I suppose the concern was mid-game, Kilkenny, when Cork rose to the challenge and really came at Kilkenny, they just couldn't seem to get a foothold back in the match. They couldn't seem to kind of get the scores with the same kind of fluidity they were getting in the first half. I think Kilkenny, probably exposed that little weakness that is still there with Cork, is that Kilkenny could have had 4 goals by half time, and they looked to be moving really well. And I would have said, Jesus, where does TJ Reid fit into this? They were moving so well. But obviously, Cork were going to come at them strong. And I think for Kieran Kingston, just that aspect of it will have concerned him. But he showed a little bit of ruthlessness, I thought. He whipped off Patrick Horgan. He whipped off his own young fella. And, Conor Lehan, for me, is arguably one of the most important players for Cork. I think it's great to see him back. He's such a good hurler. But he took over the free-taking duty. Alan Connolly, I really, really like this guy. I was surprised that he didn't start maybe last year. But they were the go-to men. And, they just brought an energy, like you said, Dara Fitzgibbon was marauding the whole time. And they just really rose to the challenge. And I think definitely the crowd got behind them, because I think they might have felt that they weren't really at the pitch of it up to that point. But they just had a little bit too much energy for Kilkenny then. But what Cork have is they have huge attacking prowess. They have a lot of options, no Alan Cadigan there either. And, that's something that's going to maybe resonate a little bit with Horgan. He's going to be stung with that. And he's a guy with high standards, so you'd expect a big reaction.
Yeah, on the strength of the Cork squad, which you mentioned there, Christy O'Connor in the Irish Examiner was pointing out that 17 of Cork's All-Ireland under-20s winning team are in the extended senior panel now. So 17 is a hell of a turnover. They've done very well to incorporate all of them. You mentioned the Cork defence there. Kilkenny could have exposed that further and maybe even scored 4 goals. Is that a continuation of something you've seen from Cork last year and beyond, that bit of a trend with them?
Yeah, I think it's probably a team that has been there with Cork, unfortunately. And you even go back as far as 2013, and I think we definitely have discussed this before, where you think of Patrick Donlan coming down the middle in that replay All Ireland and going straight through the middle of the defence, and you just think that at times, I mean, they have savage ball players. I think Mark Coleman is a lovely stickman, lovely hurler to watch, but you'd be saying, and we talk about the cynical side of it at times, but I think sometimes you have to be able to just close off your D, and that's it. And you're just saying to lads, there shall not pass, and you're willing to maybe give a point, but you're definitely saying you ain't going in for a goal. And I just thought that, if Walters one slips inside the post and, Billy Ryan put one over the bar, if that goes into the net, you could be looking at a completely different game. So I think that's the area. But if Cork are going to, hit, 127, 128, and maybe more, in games, that's not far off where Limerick put their, the benchmark for what you're going to score in a match. But definitely they need to tidy up at the back, because other days that could bite you,
And with the view to the summer, there's Limerick, much discussed, and we'll come on to Waterford now in a moment, and then I suppose Galway are lurking. Last year's All-Ireland semi-final would suggest there's not much between Cork and Kilkenny. On the evidence of Saturday, would you say that's still the case for the summer upcoming? Neither has their neck massively in front?
No, they're not far off it, but you'd like to imagine, I suppose, not from a Kilkenny perspective, but from a Cork angle, you'd like to think that that's a big psychological win for them on Saturday evening. That's one that both times, I think, against Kilkenny, they've had to come from behind in the All-Ireland semi-final last year. They came at the real right time, and they just showed that they have the forwards that can trouble the Kilkenny defence. So that's something that Brian will definitely look at going forward. He'll be definitely looking at, did his half-forward line, stop competing for the ball, because they fought very hard for the ball. And that's an area that Brian will always put huge value on. And I think that's maybe what he'll be disappointed with, was that the half-forward line just lost their way a little bit. They weren't fighting for the ball in the same way that they were. So I think Cork just have a nose on Kilkenny at the moment. But look, like we've seen last year in the Ireland semi-final, it could go either way. But I think, I suppose I'm not playing coy here, I think they just have the measure of Kilkenny just slightly at the moment.
So Wexford 16 points, Waterford 520 at Nolan Park. This was an annihilation. You said the crowd wasn't good. So would people in Kilkenny not bother crossing the road to watch a team play if they're not Kilkenny? Is that's what you're telling me? No interest?
No, Jesus, I was in there, so there was a good few from Kilkenny went in, which maybe ordinarily they mightn't. But no, it was the Wexford crowd and the Waterford crowd that this. I thought, the day that was in it, the weather that was in it, and a league semi-final. And I know, look, you're looking at further down the tracks in Championship. I just thought it was teed up for a big crowd, and I was kind of going, right, 16,000, 17,000 was in Páirc Uí Chaoimh. There's definitely going to be that in Nolan Park, but there wasn't, and it lacked an atmosphere, and I think it probably wasn't helped by the fact that Waterford rammed in a couple of goals early, and it definitely took the sting out of the match. But there was just no edge to Wexford for whatever reason. You think Austin Gleeson got two brilliant goals, carbon copies of ones of each other, and another one they missed just before that, and there just wasn't a glove laid on them sailing in there. Whereas you look in contrast to the second half, Rory O'Connor and Conor Mack both broke through, and there was Waterford defenders they were like leeches on them. There was just no way they were going to get a shot off without massive pressure. And you'd say, look, were they unlucky not to get maybe a penalty on one of them? I thought they were, but there was just that difference in how Waterford were attacking the game.
Yeah. And that's when people start, that's where you're like, well, how much can I read into this, and how up for the game were Wexford? Did they want to be in a final? All these questions, because they had been unbeaten until yesterday. So it's a real sorry note to sign off on the league campaign. And that's a Waterford side, by the way, without Jamie Barron, Stephen Bennett, Conor Prunty and Callum Lyons. So it further underlines their strength this year. When you think of Waterford in this league campaign, 18 goals scored across the league, 7 against Laois, 5 yesterday admittedly, but they are a goal scoring team. Is there any great pattern to their goals? Liam Cahill said it's something they're working on. What tends to be the secret for them?
Well, I don't know. I think if you go back to the previous regime, under Derek McGrath, it was very much kind of lateral running. What you didn't see was them actually getting the ball, from the 45 in and just facing their man down and going straight at him.
Yeah.
It's definitely a calling card of Liam Cahill and we'll say Michael Beavens, because if you look at the two 20s and 21 teams, the years that Liam Cahill was with them, I think they wrapped in 6 goals in one of those 21 All-Irelands. It was they just were hungry for goals. So it's something that I also believe Liam, took him a while in year one to kind of get that habit back into them, to take on their men and not to be kind of trying to lay it off. And you can understand them wanting to keep possession, but definitely Liam Cahill has that absolute, sniper mentality in them, that they're absolutely ruthless in front of goal and they go for the jugular. Every time there was an opportunity, they were breaking through. And you'd say it's something that I think will stand them to good stead. And like you said there, Joe, I think that what the frightening part about yesterday was, and okay, they weren't that really good because Wexford didn't give them enough of a challenge, but they also are very, very impressive with it from an energy perspective. And like you said, no Stephen Bennett, no Jamie Byrne, Conor Prunty, and you look at the guys that are, Desi Hutchinson is in massive form.
Yeah.
Very, very dangerous. They play that 2-man inside full forward line, and Gleeson seems to have the free role. So they are supremely fit. They have a really strong squad. They are probably best placed to, throw it down to the All-Ireland champions at the moment. And I think Liam Cahill is a very driven manager, and I think that's very reflective in how they're playing at the moment.
You know, on the going for the jugular and going for goals, this was something Cahill talked about when he first took the job. He was telling players to go for it, and you could see them screaming, "Go for it!" That was like almost their motto. And you think about it, other teams, and we're not seeing as much free scoring in hurling when it comes to goals at times. Other teams could take a leaf out of that book. I mean, geez, no more than yourself in your heyday. Someone starts running at goal and hurling, it's bloody hard to stop them. And like, you just plough on in there and go for it. You'll probably find more success than you're expecting.
Yeah, that's it. I think if what helps though as well, I thought the delivery into the Waterford full forward line over the last couple of games has been excellent. I was behind the goal there in the first half, and it was measured to perfection. Like, it was deep, it was inside the 14, going like Dio O'Keefe dropped back into the 5 position, and they were able to get it over him. Like, so I suppose they had that extra man out there and they were able to be really accurate with it. But yeah, I don't guess why more teams aren't more like that. I think as a forward, once you collect that ball, your first job is, can I break the tackle here? Can I go? And that's grand if you get stood up. Okay, then you have your runners off the shoulder. But absolutely, you know, I think now the game is made for that, because guys' fitness levels are off the charts. You know, you take even Callum Lyons there, loves to break forward as well. So I think with movement, if you can drag defenders out of positions and get them out to the wings and you break the ball through, I think any good forward for me, you should be always, and it's something that you'd love to see, is turn and test your man straight away. You're putting your defender under massive pressure. You're going to force him to make a decision. Either maybe fouls you, or he lets you on, or else he's going to have to be a hell of a good tackler if he's going to be able to stop you and turn you back.
Yeah, agree. I think far too often there's probably defenders walking out of matches saying, geez, that was great, he never really tested me, he might have had me, but sure, we'll never know now. And you kind of think, why not? On Ozzie Gleeson, scored 2-3, even just for the goals. If anyone just got the highlights, like he looks like he's moving really well and strong and aggressive, and he had number 9 on his back. You said free rolls, so was he kind of hanging around midfield, or was he popping up everywhere? Is he kind of getting back to the Ozzie Gleeson we all fell in love with?
Yeah, I think so. I think what happened before with him was he got that free roll under Derek McGrath, and he just at times, I think, tended to drop a little bit too deep. Like, I mean, if I'm playing against Austin Gleeson, where would I like to see him? Back on his own 45, please, because he won't hurt you there. But I think he has the physique and the size, and even last year, the year before in the All-Ireland semi-final against Kilkenny, he went out to the 10 position and he plucked a couple of puck-outs clean. So he has the size, he has the hand to catch ball like that. And when he comes marauding in around, you know, he's able to move around. So I suppose he puts a huge question mark for opposition. Do you man mark him, which you probably have to, because he's able to read the game quite well and he does get in those good positions. But you can't afford to kind of go a little bit zonal and let the closest man pick him up, because then you're maybe losing the responsibility. So he probably is a guy that would have to be man marked. When you look at the kind of form he produced yesterday, you'd be definitely saying he gave Paddy Foley an awful lot to think of. And Paddy Foley probably likes to play maybe as a traditional out centre back. But that's a role that I think the higher up the field he is from midfield in, that's where you want Austin Gleeson. That's where he'll do a lot of his heavy scoring. And
quick last one, I don't think we'll talk to you for the rest of the week. Cork Waterford in Thurles, Saturday evening, 7:15. The clocks have gone forward. Sunset. This could be quite something.
Yeah, it's a brilliant way to maybe finish off this league. And I know, like we said at the top of the show, it's a novel one. We're not really sure where we are with it yet. But I think you're playing, you know, you have two probably the real form teams, two teams that have played with a lot of energy, and two teams that I think are going to go hammer and tongs at it on Saturday evening. I definitely think, you know, you said it there, Cork, it's 98, Waterford back to, I think, 2015. So will we have a big crowd in Thurles next Saturday evening? Yeah, and I think it's going to be a cracking game because both teams will definitely go at this, because championship is coming close. Rather than getting on a bus on a Tuesday night and going playing someone in a challenge match that you're not sure how up for the match the lads are, this is one that definitely should get players in the right frame of mind. And you're also showing the manager that you don't want to be surrendering a jersey either.
Great analysis, Eddie. Thanks for coming on. Appreciate it.
Lovely stuff, Joe. No bother.
Cheers. Thoughts there of Eddie Brennan on the weekend's hurling. Again, that's 7:15 throw-in in Thurles, Waterford and Cork in the league final. Football shows on the way.
Off the ball
on News Talk.
We don't do stress at the AA. We do car insurance with peace of mind as standard. We've got a trusted panel of insurers